Hey kids, it's Jurassic James. Jurassic Explains. Looking at Metriacanthosaurus, which means moderately spined lizard. So I have four figures here. Same rules apply. Oldest model, newest model here. First and foremost, I'm going to point out this animal and its lifestyle. It is living in, let's see, what we now call Europe. And the idea is that right now, when you look at Europe, of course, it's above sea level. But back then, it was actually, no, when it's back then, late Jurassic Oxfordian clay, about 163 to 150, I think, 7 million years ago. So late Jurassic England or Europe. And so the first one I have here is actually the one I use for my model for the website. This is a, let's see, 2016 Collect A. So this guy here is literally my poster child for this specimen. The rest are all Jurassic World figures. As far as this family tree goes, I'm going to go over that in a minute actually, but as far as the figures go, this guy's doing great. 3 fingers pointing palm to palm. I personally am not a fan of having the base, but I understand with many theropods it's hard to have them balance and everything, so I totally get that. I will return to this figure in more detail when I get to the family tree and environment. Moving past that, in Jurassic World, there's been, I think, 3 different remolds of this, or repaints of this. But the first one we have here is this guy here. This one has the classic, yet incorrect Jurassic World hands like this. They should be side like this. They do have 3 fingers. They do have 3 toes on the ground and 1 dew claw. Now, what's really supposed, I mean, the skull, it's a lot to be requested, but the spine along here, that's what, again, the name Metriacanthosaurus means moderately spined lizard because we have these things called neural spines. So I always tell you when I talk to you guys, just touch the back right there, use little bumps. So here are some neural spines I have. So this is not a Metriacanthosaurus, this is another animal from the fossil record. And so I have these 2 here, and so these are the backbones right there, right? So if for me, it'd be going like that. Well, these tall bits are called the neural spines. And so if you see a spine like this, you're thinking, oh my goodness, is that a Spinosaurus or is it a Dimetrodon? And the answer is no, it's neither of those things. This is from a really weird animal called a bison. Now this is a modern bison figure. These are fossil bison from the Ice Age. But again, when you see this structure, you're gonna, people assume sail, but bison, we can see them outside. They're, Yellowstone bark. They have giant humps. So there's a big debate or a series of debates going back and forth in paleontology about these different theropod dinosaurs, predators particularly, that have these neural spines. Are they cells or are they humps? And so with these particular guys, they went with giant hump basically. With it being moderately spined, I mean obviously something like the Dimetrodon or Spinosaurus, those are, Spinosaurus, these are 6-foot spines. And so that would be a huge hump. That being said, we have this guy here. It's yeah, he does crawl. Yeah, that's it. The batteries are already dying. Good. So this next one, same mold. The difference is that pushing a button, you click it. I actually like that more because you have more control over how it actually moves. But again, the body is the same, it's a repaint. So these guys are what they are, But, of course, the reason this video came about is this one here, the Hammond collection. I will say that as an official endorsement, I like the Hammond collection. Be aware that I like them in their context, meaning that these are great representations of Jurassic Park dinosaurs. They're not scientifically accurate, they're great representations of them as they depict them in the movie. That being said, let's see with the official scissors of Jurassic James. And we will deal with this surgically nice as possible. So, Metriacanthosaurus has a bit of an on-screen, technically, not really, appearance. If you do the picture, you can see right here on the box, there is Nedry, Dennis Nedry in Jurassic Park 1, when he's stealing the embryos to give to Dogson. There it says on the side, Metriacanthosaurus. It's also mentioned in the Jurassic Park, some of the props, they have like little fold-out maps and tourist guides, and they mentioned Metriacanthosaurus on that too, actually. So it's been like a part of the Jurassic World franchise at the beginning, but there's not like, until these guys in Jurassic World, there aren't any toys of them. That's sweet. Oh, it's because of that. Okay. Well, I'm not going to keep the box anyway, so we're doing that. So, same thing here, and again, I'm seeing a trend. The tails come off. But, well, I'll say it this way, my biggest complaint is that the tails are always too short. And since this one is putting it out of the way, so okay, so this guy's got like a rubbery feel to it. The tail, there's a little shape in the tab. It's the same shape in tab. You have to align the 2 tabs and you do like that, and there you go. And there's your Metriacanthosaurus. I mean, the Hammond collection is, as it's trying to do, it is way better than the normal figure. One thing to point out: the hands are still doing the like this, but they are kind of turned sideways, and you can technically, because they have joints on the arms, turn them more accurate. I do again like the length of the tail. I mean, even though this guy, he kept it up too. It's a really good design. I mean, good, not design. It's more hunchback of the Jurassic. But let's see. Oh, the ankles aren't as articulate, so technically it's just more like that, and it holds good, very good. Now, one thing about this guy that okay. So first and foremost, we're going to talk about this animal and appreciate it and all that. So again, these two guys are going to sit in the back seat. I'm going to return the official scissors, Jurassic James, for safety purposes. And so again, looking at this guy now, this Collect A figure is like the golden standard. I mean, I know there's probably other model makers out there, but this guy's really good. I like the way the skull looks, very narrow. I mean, because given the families, and so speaking of that, as far as this family relations, here's Metriacanthosaurus. It was initially dug up and thought to be a megalosaur. Now, you may notice that when you read a lot of, particularly paleontology in Europe and North America, a lot of dinosaurs were thought to be Megalosaurus first, because Megalosaurus is the first dinosaur named. And so the idea is that they didn't understand initially, earlier on in the 1800s, like multiple species of these things. And so you even see something like Dilophosaurus, which is really a bit far apart, thought Megalosaurus first, then realized, no, it's its own family. Same thing here. Now the Metriacanthosaurus became, these are Megalosaur figures. This first one is Collect A 2006, and this one's Collect A 2020. So you can see how the science is here, and that's just like a figure. I mean, they improved upon themselves greatly. So they're no longer considered megalosaurs. They're in a group called Sinoraptors. Sinoraptors, they are not Dromaeosaurs. Sinoraptor is this guy here. This is I believe, Carnegie 2003, Sinoraptor from China, which I mentioned in my Metriacanthosaurus video. And so these are, oh wow, they look very similar. They're different companies, but they look very similar. And so, I mean, look at how that looks. I mean, other than color. Again, the spine being a little taller here. There's more, the nose spines stick up. So here they're more hump, here they're sticking out. It depends on the artist's interpretation in this case. And so, as far as that's concerned, the other relatives that it has are you saying, I can't say anything. You saying the one from late Jurassic Asia. So I think Jurassic World has this guy here. So I mentioned he had his own video. It's a big deal. And so this group, this is considered, these are closer together, Metriacanthosaurus. They're really kind of under the blanket Allosaurid group. So they're not Spinosaurs, they're not Tyrannosaurs, they're not Abelisaurs. They're kind of closer to Allosaurs. They're Allosaurids, but closer to, they're not Megalosaurs, but they're Allosaurids that are more on the simple or basal early side in that sense. And so that's kind of where it fits in with the other figures in its line or its time. And so that's these guys. Now, one thing to point out too, as far as the environment goes, I mentioned that this area is, and there's these two guys too. These are also closer to Megalosaurus and Metriacanthosaurus. So I will have a video on these two, their own separate video on each of them. So stay tuned. But the environment, so I'm going to use view. So the environment, first and foremost, it's a contemporary and not only same time, but same localities as Eustriptus spondylus. Eustriptus spondylus is actually first seen publicly or well known in Walking with Dinosaurs with the marine life video. It's the thing that's sitting over the water and the live pleurodon grabs it. And I realized that people thought that was a T-Rex. I've had a number of people come to me and go, wow, that giant marine thing ate the T-Rex. It's like, that wasn't a T-Rex, it was a spondylus, different animal. So these guys, not to scale, these are contemporaries. Also, as far as the Jurassic World line goes, this guy here, the Allosaurus, is like an iguanodont relative. And then the let's see, this is a 2003 Procon. Procons, I like collect data, would do kind of unusual species. I don't see too many Procons coming out though. And so this is a stegosaur basically. Some say it's invalid. Some say it is. I don't know if they're from the same. There's some material from a Stegosaurus in this area. So these guys are contemporaries. As far as the terrestrial sense on the islands, in the water we have animals like Liplorodon. So here is Liplorodon, which I see 2010 Safari. So the marine reptile, the one that supposedly grabs them, not to scale. Also we have, there aren't any models of Kleptocladus, but this is essentially a plesiosaurus. We have the Pliosaur, which is like a same animal as the Liplorodon, the Pliosaurus, but different species. I mentioned before the quote marine crocodiles, who are not really crocodiles. We have one of those guys there too. And Leeds Ichthyes is my first video showing this guy. Leeds Ichthyes is one of the world's largest fish. So and I think walking with one of the offshoots of that, they suggest they were some of the biggest fish of all time, and that they were like as big as blue whales and all that. They went back and said actually they're probably smaller than that. Still large fish, one of the largest fish, but not that big. And so these animals are found in the same, and Rhamphorhynchus, here we go, a pterosaur, long, sharp teeth like that. And so these are, again, not to scale. But the idea that you're seeing an environment where you have marine animals and terrestrial animals. And so we're seeing basically our original islands. And they're intermittent. So when you're digging, and I can, from experience, you can dig in a spot and where there's like a layer, where there's like sandstone or a shale, and where the sandstone is, you'd have dinosaurs. Or at least, like land animals. And the shell or mudstone, you might find coastal material like shells or turtles or frogs or something like that. Or you might find broken up bone bits that have been kind of washed around in the surf. So we're seeing something kind of like that here, where you're seeing the terrestrial land animals, the ocean animals, in a very similar environment. So that tells you that it's not just a middle of a plain, and it's not the deep ocean, it's a coastal interchanging spot. And that's where this guy would have been found. And so that, in a nutshell, is Metriacanthosaurus. I know there's more to it than that. There's always more to talk about. But I wanted to just check out this Hemiclet. I like the tail, again, to me, is still too small, but it's not bad. It's straight. I know that they do this to help balance and all that and make it look cool. But the fact that the tail could just be a little bit fatter than that, a little bit wider. But overall, it's still good. And again, this guy, it looks pretty cool. I like it a lot. So, but if you want to find one that's really accurate, get the Collect A 2016. 2015? 2016. So that being said, I'll see you guys next week, and we're going to open up these guys. Get one at a time. Maybe this one and that one, basically. All right. Thank you.